My name is Francisco, and at 32, I never thought my own sister would try to destroy my life over money. Rebecca and I were once inseparable. But everything changed when she demanded $38,000 for a luxury car she simply had to have. When I refused, her revenge was swift and brutal. First came the scalding coffee across my face, then my beloved car up in flames. Instead of retaliating, I chose silence and made just one calculated move. What happened next brought her to her knees. If you are watching this, drop a comment, letting me know where you are viewing from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear how one decision changed everything between us. Growing up in suburban Seattle, our family was firmly middle class. Mom worked as a dental receptionist while Dad put in long hours as a construction foreman. They provided everything we needed, but luxury items were rare treats saved for birthdays and Christmas. Money was tight sometimes, especially when Dad experienced periodic layoffs during economic downturns in the construction industry. Rebecca came into my world when I was 5 years old. From the moment my parents brought her home from the hospital, I appointed myself her protector. 5 years younger than me, she had big brown eyes that seemed to take in everything, and a smile that could light up a room. Our personalities were different from the start. I was the quiet, thoughtful child who could spend hours building elaborate Lego structures or reading books about space and dinosaurs. Rebecca was a social butterfly, constantly chattering and drawing people to her with her natural charisma. Our parents, particularly Mom, seemed to have different rules for Rebecca than they had for me. Where I had strict bedtimes and homework schedules, Rebecca could often charm her way into staying up late or getting extensions on chores. Dad would shake his head and say, "That girl could talk her way out of a speeding ticket at age 4. Despite our differences, we shared a special bond throughout childhood. I taught her how to ride a bike in our driveway, spending countless weekends running alongside her until she finally found her balance. During summer breaks, Dad would take us fishing at Lake Washington, where Rebecca would get impatient after 20 minutes while I could sit quietly for hours. She never caught much, but her excitement when she did reel one in made those trips memorable. High school created our first real division. While I worked weekends at the local grocery store to save for college, Rebecca focused on becoming part of the popular crowd. She joined cheerleading and seemed to have a new best friend every month. My part-time jobs and advanced placement classes left little time for socializing, but I never resented her choices. We were just different. College widened the gap further. I attended the University of Washington on a partial scholarship, supplementing it with continued work at the grocery store and a new job in the university computer lab. Meanwhile, Rebecca convinced our parents to help her attend a private university in California, where tuition was triple what mine cost. She changed majors 3 times, extending her time there while making minimal progress toward any degree. My career path was straightforward. Computer science degree in hand, I landed an entry-level software development position at a mid-sized tech company. I lived frugally, took on extra projects, and gradually worked my way up to senior developer with a comfortable, if not extravagant, salary. Rebecca, meanwhile, cycled through jobs in retail, marketing, real estate, and event planning, never staying anywhere longer than a year. Each position was abandoned for a different reason. The manager was unfair. The hours were too demanding. The work was boring. The customers were rude. Despite growing apart in our adult years, I remained the protective big brother. When her phone service got cut off because she forgot to pay the bill 3 months running, I covered it. When she came up short on rent after spending too much on a weekend trip to Las Vegas, I transferred the money to her account. These were relatively small amounts, and I considered them the cost of being family. My Toyota Camry represented 3 years of careful saving. It was not new or flashy, a 5-year-old model with decent mileage when I bought it, but it was reliable and paid for in full. No car loans hanging over my head. That car carried me to work daily. took me on weekend hiking trips to Mount Rainier, and even served as temporary housing during a week-long power outage in my apartment building during a severe winter storm. It might not turn heads, but it represented financial independence to me. My apartment reflected similar values. Located in a safe but not trendy neighborhood, it had one bedroom, a small balcony where I grew herbs in the summer, and enough space for my modest furniture and book collection. I lived within my means, contributed the company maximum to my 401 Kelvin, and was slowly building a down payment fund for a house someday. The trouble began when Rebecca moved back to Seattle after her latest career restart. She quickly fell in with a group of friends who lived in luxury apartments downtown, wore designer clothes, and thought nothing of dropping hundreds of dollars on dinner and drinks multiple times a week. Suddenly, her requests for money became more frequent and for larger amounts. $100 here for a dinner she could not afford to split. $200 there for a dress she absolutely needed for a gallery opening. I usually obliged, telling myself it was temporary until she found stable footing again. In retrospect, I should have seen what was coming. The warning signs were there in her increasingly entitled attitude, in the dismissive way she looked around my apartment, in her casual references to friends with vacation homes and luxury vehicles. But family blinds you sometimes to what would be obvious if anyone else behaved the same way. The Sunday Rebecca showed up unannounced at my apartment began like any other weekend day. I had gone for a morning run, showered, and was enjoying coffee while catching up on some work emails when the doorbell rang. Opening the door revealed Rebecca looking particularly polished in designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my entire outfit. "Surprise visit from your favorite sister," she announced, breezing past me into the apartment. We settled in my small kitchen, where I made her a cup of coffee. The conversation started pleasantly enough, with updates on her new job at a boutique marketing firm and questions about my latest project at work. Throughout our chat, I noticed her eyes wandering around my apartment, taking in the secondhand furniture and modest decor. "This place is cozy," she commented, somehow making the words sound like a criticism. "You know, with your salary, you could afford something a bit more upscale." I shrugged off the comment. "I like it here. The neighborhood is quiet, and I am saving money for other priorities." "Speaking of which," Rebecca said, her tone shifting to what I recognized as her asking for something voice, "I test drove the most amazing car yesterday. A BMW 3 Series in this gorgeous metallic blue color. The dealer said they rarely get that color in stock." I nodded politely, assuming this was just conversation. "Sounds nice." "It is beyond nice, Francisco. It is exactly what I need to make the right impression with clients and my new friends. The interior is cream leather, and it has all these tech features that would make your inner computer geek jealous." I smiled at her enthusiasm. Those luxury cars can be pretty impressive with their technology packages. "So anyway," she continued, stirring her coffee casually, "it is $38,000, and I was thinking you could help me with that." The request hung in the air for a moment while I processed what she had just said. I must have misunderstood. "Help you how?" "Like, go with you to negotiate the price down?" I asked. Rebecca laughed, as if I had said something amusing. "No, silly. Help me buy it. You know, financially." The clarification stunned me into momentary silence. When I found my voice, I kept my tone measured. "Rebecca, that is a lot of money. Are you asking me to co-sign a loan?" "And, no, that would not work with my credit right now," she explained, waving away the suggestion. "I meant you could give me the money. Or most of it, anyway. I have about $3,000 saved." The casual way she proposed I hand over $35,000 left me speechless again. Rebecca seemed to interpret my silence as consideration rather than shock. "You would not have to give it all at once if that is easier," she added helpfully. "We could set up a payment plan with the dealer if you give them a large down payment." Finding my voice again, I tried reason. "Rebecca, even if I wanted to, I do not have that kind of money just sitting around. I have been saving for a house down payment. But even that fund is nowhere near $35,000 yet. But you do have savings, she pressed. And you always talk about how stable your job is. The bank would give you a loan easily with your credit score. So you want me to take out a loan so you can have a luxury car? I clarified, feeling a growing disbelief. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. Rebecca pouted. Look, this car is important for my image. All my friends drive high-end cars. I cannot keep showing up in that old Honda Civic. People judge, Francisco. It affects how they see me professionally. I took a deep breath and suggested alternatives. What about a more affordable car? There are plenty of reliable models under $20,000. Or even a quality used car. For less? Her expression soured immediately. Used? Are you serious? That is so embarrassing. I need something that reflects my lifestyle and professional image. Rebecca, I said gently, I think we need to talk about the difference between needs and wants here, and about living within our means. This triggered an immediate defensive response. That is so easy for you to say from your position of stability. Not everyone can have everything fall into place perfectly like you did. The conversation was deteriorating quickly. I tried again. Nothing fell into place. I worked through college, took an entry-level job, lived with roommates for years to save money, and drove a 15-year-old car until it completely died. The stability I have now came from years of careful decisions. So you are saying I make bad decisions? That I am irresponsible? Her voice rose sharply. I am saying $38,000 for a car when you just started a new job and have a history of changing careers frequently is not a stable financial decision. And asking me to fund it is not fair. Rebecca's expression hardened. You mentioned saving for a house. You are not even dating anyone seriously. Why do you need a house right now? This car would make an actual difference in my life today. My financial goals are not up for debate, I said firmly. The answer is no, Rebecca. I cannot and will not give you $35,000 for a luxury car. Her face flushed with anger. You have always been selfish, always hoarding your money and success while watching me struggle. That is not true, and you know it, I countered. I have helped you many times with bills, rent, phone payments. But this is different. This is enabling financial irresponsibility on a massive scale. If you really loved me, you would want me to have nice things, she shouted, tears forming in her eyes. If I really loved you, I would want you to learn financial independence and responsibility, I replied calmly. Which is exactly why I am saying no. Rebecca grabbed her purse and stood up abruptly. Fine. I see where I stand with you now. Crystal clear. Rebecca, please, let us talk about this rationally, I attempted. But she was already storming toward the door. There is nothing to talk about. You have made your choice. Your money means more to you than your sister. With that parting shot, she slammed the door behind her. Over the next few days, I called and texted multiple times, trying to repair the damage. My messages went unanswered. After the fifth ignored call, I decided to give her space to cool down. I called my best friend Michael to get an outside perspective. You absolutely did the right thing, Michael assured me after hearing the story. That is an insane amount of money to ask for, especially for something as depreciating as a luxury car. I know that logically, I sighed, but she made me feel like I am a terrible brother for saying no. That is classic manipulation, Michael pointed out. She is trying to use your relationship as leverage to get what she wants. Stand your ground, man. She will get over it. I wanted to believe him. But something in Rebecca's expression when she left made me uneasy. This felt different from our usual disagreements. There was a coldness there I had never seen before. A week passed with no word from Rebecca. I was beginning to wonder if I should reach out again when my doorbell rang on Saturday morning. Opening it revealed Rebecca standing there, looking considerably more subdued than during her last visit. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. "I think we should talk." Relief washed over me. "Of course. I am glad you came by." We moved to the kitchen again, where I busied myself making fresh coffee. The familiar routine felt comforting, a return to normalcy after the tension of our last encounter. "I have been thinking about our conversation," Rebecca began, watching me pour water into the coffee maker, "about the car situation." "Me too," I admitted, reaching for mugs from the cabinet. "I am sorry if I came across as harsh. I just worry about financial decisions that could impact your future negatively." "I understand that perspective," she said, her voice carefully measured. "But I really want you to reconsider helping me with this. The dealer called yesterday and said someone else is interested in the car. I need to make a decision by Monday." The coffee maker gurgled as the hot liquid began to fill the pot. I turned to face her directly. "Rebecca, my answer has not changed. I cannot give you that money." "Cannot or will not?" she challenged, her tone sharpening. "Both," I replied honestly. "I do not have $35,000 in liquid assets available. And even if I did, I would not use it this way. It would not be good for either of us." "What about a loan then? Just from your savings?" "I will pay you back. I promise." I shook my head. "Your track record with repaying loans is not great, Rebecca. Remember the $500 for your dental work last year? Or the $700 for the security deposit on your last apartment?" Her eyes narrowed. "So you keep score? Nice to know. Every bit of help comes with strings attached." "That is not what I meant," I sighed. "I am just trying to be practical here." "Practical," she repeated with a bitter laugh. "Always practical, Francisco. Always responsible. Must be nice to be so perfect all the time." I poured the coffee into mugs, trying to de-escalate the situation. "I am far from perfect. Look, why not explore other options? What about asking Mom and Dad to co-sign a loan for a more affordable car?" "They already said no," she admitted reluctantly. "Dad gave me this whole lecture about fiscal responsibility and living within my means. Sounded exactly like you." Actually, that explained why she had turned to me. I was her backup plan after our parents had already refused. "They are right, Rebecca. Starting your new job with massive debt is not the way to go." I placed a mug of coffee in front of her and turned back to the counter to get sugar. That is when I heard the scrape of her chair and felt something hot hit the back of my head, splashing down my neck and back. The pain was immediate and shocking. Boiling coffee cascaded down my back, soaking through my shirt and searing my skin. I yelled in pain and spun around to see Rebecca standing there, the empty coffee pot in her hand, her face contorted with rage. Before I could react, she flung the remaining coffee directly at my face. I managed to partially block it with my arm, but plenty still hit my left cheek and ear. The burning sensation was excruciating, like nothing I had experienced before. "Rebecca, what the hell?" I gasped, stumbling toward the sink to splash cold water on my burning skin. She watched me coldly, placing the empty coffee pot on the table with deliberate calm. "You will regret this, Francisco." Nobody says no to me through the pain. I felt a chill at her tone. This was not my little sister speaking. This was someone I did not recognize. "Get out," I managed to say between splashes of cold water on my face. Without another word, she walked out, closing the door quietly behind her. The moment she left, I called Michael, who lived 10 minutes away. "I need help," I said through gritted teeth. Rebecca threw boiling coffee on me. "I think I need to go to the hospital." Michael arrived in record time, shocked at the angry red welts forming across my face, neck, and back. Jesus, man. What happened? She completely lost it when I would not give her money for the car. I explained as he helped me into his car. At the emergency room, the doctor confirmed second-degree burns on approximately 15% of my body. You are lucky it was not worse, he told me as he applied burn cream and bandages. Coffee can reach temperatures that cause third-degree burns. Those would require skin grafts to heal properly. I was given prescription pain medication, antibiotics to prevent infection, and instructions to change the bandages twice daily. The doctor wrote me a note for work, recommending 3 days off to begin the healing process. Those 3 days gave me plenty of time to replay the incident in my mind. I vacillated between shock, anger, and sadness. How could Rebecca, who I had protected and supported all her life, do something so deliberately harmful? I kept my apartment door locked and jumped at every sound in the hallway, half expecting her to return. On the third night, around 2 in the morning, I was awakened by shouting and commotion in the parking lot. Groggily making my way to the window, the scene below jolted me fully awake. My Toyota Camry was engulfed in flames, orange fire leaping from the windows and hood. Several neighbors stood at a safe distance, some in pajamas, others holding phones to their ears, presumably calling emergency services. I rushed downstairs, ignoring the pain from my still healing burns. By the time I reached the parking lot, sirens were approaching. The fire department arrived within minutes, quickly working to extinguish the blaze. But it was clear. My car was destroyed. A police officer approached me, notebook in hand. "Are you the owner of the vehicle?" I nodded, still staring at the smoking shell of my car. "Yes." "Toyota Camry. License plate WXY 789. Do you have any idea what might have caused this?" Before I could answer, my neighbor Ted from apartment 3C approached. "Officer, my security camera might have caught something. I installed it after that break-in last month." The police reviewed Ted's footage, which clearly showed a figure approaching my car around 1:40 a.m., pouring liquid over and around it, then using what looked like a lighter to ignite it. Despite the hooded sweatshirt, there was no mistaking Rebecca's distinctive walk and physical build. "Do you recognize this person?" the detective asked, replaying the damning footage. My throat tightened. "Yes, it is my sister, Rebecca." The next hour was spent answering questions and providing Rebecca's information. The detective explained the potential charges: assault for the coffee incident, and now arson and destruction of property for the car. "Do you want to press charges?" he asked finally. "I need to think about it," I answered. Honestly, back in my apartment, I sat on the couch until sunrise, my mind racing. Around 7 in the morning, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Francisco, what is going on?" the police called, looking for Rebecca. "They mentioned something about your car?" I told her everything, from the demand for money, to the coffee attack, to the car fire. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "There must be some mistake," she finally said. "Rebecca would never do something like that." "Are you sure it was her?" On the security video, her doubt was like a second burn. "Yes, Mom, I am sure." "Well, I think you two need to work this out between yourselves," she said firmly. "Family problems should stay within the family. Involving the police will only make things worse." My father got on the line next. "Son, I know you are upset about your car, but pressing charges against your sister would follow her forever. Think about her future." Their response left me feeling betrayed all over again. Neither had asked about my injuries or expressed concern for my well-being. Their primary concern was protecting Rebecca from consequences. "I will think about it," I said non-committally before ending the call. For the next several days, I existed in a fog of disbelief and hurt. Not only had my sister physically attacked me and destroyed one of my most valuable possessions, but my parents seemed more concerned with her welfare than mine. The family I had always believed would have my back no matter what had instead chosen to minimize my pain and prioritize my attacker, blood relation or not. 3 days after the car fire, I invited my lawyer friend Jennifer over to discuss my options. Her expression grew increasingly concerned as I showed her the burns, still painful and now beginning to blister in places, and played Ted's security footage for her. "Francisco, this is extremely serious," Jennifer said, her professional demeanor firmly in place. The coffee attack alone could be charged as assault with a deadly weapon in some jurisdictions, given the temperature and resulting injuries. The car arson adds destruction of property and potentially reckless endangerment, since the fire could have spread to other vehicles or buildings. "What about a restraining order?" I asked. "Absolutely advisable, given the escalation of violence," she confirmed. "As for insurance, you should immediately file a claim naming Rebecca as the responsible party. The video evidence is crucial there." After Jennifer left, I sat thinking about my next steps. A pattern was becoming clear. Rebecca had always used emotional manipulation to get what she wanted. When that failed, she escalated to violence. Without intervention, this cycle would likely continue or even worsen. An idea began to form in my mind. What if, instead of engaging with her directly, I simply stepped back and let systems and consequences work as designed? No angry confrontations, no retaliatory actions, just the natural outcomes of her own choices flowing unimpeded. The plan crystallized. Complete silence, combined with methodical legal processes. I would not speak to Rebecca directly at all, not respond to calls or messages, not engage in family drama. Instead, I would document everything, follow proper procedures, and let official channels do their work. First, I blocked Rebecca's number on my phone and removed her from all social media. Then I called my parents. "Mom, Dad, I need some space right now. I will not be discussing Rebecca with you for the foreseeable future. I hope you can respect that boundary." My mother immediately began to protest, but I remained firm. "This is not negotiable. I will call you in a few weeks when I am ready to talk again." Next, I filed a detailed police report, including photographs of my burns taken at different stages of healing, and the medical report from the emergency room. I submitted the insurance claim for my car with the security footage attached, and Rebecca listed as the responsible party. Jennifer helped me file for a temporary restraining order, which was granted based on the evidence of both attacks. Through mutual friends, I learned that Rebecca had told our parents a completely different story. According to her version, I had threatened to ruin her financially when she asked for a small loan, then physically intimidated her during our second meeting. The car fire, she claimed, must have been an electrical issue, or perhaps even deliberate fraud on my part to collect insurance money. Some relatives believed her story without question. A cousin called to tell me how disappointed she was in my behavior. An uncle sent a text suggesting I needed anger management classes. It was tempting to defend myself, to send them the evidence, to publicly expose Rebecca's lies. But that would only feed the drama she thrived on. Instead, I maintained my silence and focused on healing, both physically and emotionally. My burns gradually improved, though the doctor warned some scarring on my back might be permanent. I worked with my insurance to secure a rental car while my claim was processed. Friends offered different perspectives on my approach. Michael fully supported my strategy of disengagement. "She wants a reaction. Silence is driving her crazy, I bet." My coworker, Alicia, thought I was being too passive. "You need to expose her lies before she controls the narrative completely." My neighbor Ted worried about potential retaliation. "What if she comes back? Maybe you should stay somewhere else for a while." Through it all, I maintained my course. Rebecca made increasingly desperate attempts to contact me, first through direct calls from different numbers, then through friends, and finally by showing up at my workplace, where security escorted her out based on the restraining order. Then came what Michael later called the one move that changed everything. I formally provided all evidence, including the security footage, medical documentation, and police reports, to 3 entities. the insurance company investigating the claim, the police detective building a case, and, perhaps most consequentially, Rebecca's employer. I had discovered through LinkedIn that Rebecca was still in her 90-day probationary period at the marketing firm. Their employee handbook, publicly available on their website, had a clear policy about violent incidents, immediate suspension pending investigation, for any employee involved in violence, regardless of whether it occurred at work. 2 weeks after the car fire, our parents planned a birthday dinner for my father. I declined to attend when I learned Rebecca would be there. Instead, I sent a gift and arranged to visit the following weekend privately. It was the first family gathering I had ever missed, and I knew it sent a clear message. Throughout this period, I felt a surprising sense of peace. I was not acting out of vindictiveness or a desire for revenge, and I was simply refusing to participate in toxic dynamics and allowing natural consequences to unfold. It was perhaps the most difficult boundary I had ever set, but also the most necessary. The insurance investigation proceeded methodically. Within 3 weeks of filing my claim, the company made their determination. The fire was clearly intentional, and the evidence pointed conclusively to Rebecca as the perpetrator. They approved my claim in full and simultaneously initiated their own legal process to recover costs from Rebecca. Rebecca received formal notice from both the insurance company and their legal department regarding their intent to collect approximately $22,000 for the destroyed vehicle and associated costs. This notification apparently arrived the same day her employer called her in for a meeting regarding the incident of concern brought to their attention. According to Michael, who heard through a mutual acquaintance, Rebecca was placed on unpaid administrative leave pending further investigation. Company policy required completion of their internal review process, regardless of whether criminal charges were formally filed. The voicemails began that evening. Unable to call me directly due to the blocking, Rebecca left messages with mutual friends. Please tell Francisco to call me. This is all a misunderstanding. I am going to lose my job if he does not drop this. Tell him it is an emergency. This is not fair. He is ruining my life over a stupid fight. Each message grew more desperate than the last, but I maintained my silence. I had drawn my line in the sand and would not be moved by the same emotional manipulation that had worked in the past. A week into the insurance investigation, my parents finally saw the security footage and medical photographs when the detective handling the case contacted them for background information. My mother called me crying, "Francisco, I had no idea it was this bad. The detective showed us everything. Your poor face and back, and the video of the car. I cannot believe Rebecca would do such things. I tried to tell you," I said simply. "We should have listened," my father added, his voice heavy with regret. "We just could not imagine she would go that far. She told us such a different story." "She has always been good at telling stories," I replied. Their apology seemed genuine, but the damage to our relationship was significant. Their immediate assumption that I had exaggerated or lied revealed a fundamental imbalance in how they viewed their children. It would take time to rebuild that trust. The financial consequences for Rebecca mounted quickly. The insurance company denied her coverage for her own vehicle due to the arson investigation. The potential criminal charges meant legal expenses she could not afford. Without income during her suspension, she fell behind on rent for her expensive downtown apartment. Through our now limited family communication, I learned that Rebecca's boyfriend of 3 months broke up with her. After learning the full story, her wealthy friends, so impressive with their luxury cars and designer clothes, gradually stopped, including her in their gatherings, as her image transformed from successful marketing professional to someone facing potential criminal charges. 2 months after the incident, Rebecca was formally terminated from her job following completion of their internal investigation. The company cited violation of their code of conduct and the ongoing legal issues as grounds for dismissal. Unable to afford her apartment without income, she was forced to move back in with our parents. a humbling descent for someone who had been so focused on projecting an image of success. Throughout this cascade of consequences, I maintained my policy of non-engagement. It was not easy. There were nights I lay awake wondering if my approach was too harsh, if I should offer some form of support or at least hear her side directly. But then I would feel the still tender scars on my back, or remember the coldness in her eyes as she deliberately threw scalding coffee at my face, and my resolve would strengthen. My parents reported that Rebecca had started therapy, initially as a requirement to potentially avoid criminal charges, but continuing because she seemed to be benefiting from it. The district attorney had indicated willingness to consider a deferred prosecution agreement that would include mandatory counseling, community service, and full restitution. 3 months after the car fire, I received a formal letter from Rebecca. Unlike her previous attempts at contact, this one came through Jennifer, my lawyer friend, ensuring it did not violate the restraining order. The letter was unlike anything I had ever seen from my sister. Francisco, I take full responsibility for my inexcusable actions. There is no justification for the harm I caused you, physically, emotionally, and financially. I am working with a therapist to understand why I reacted with such violence and entitlement. While I do not expect forgiveness, I want you to know I am committed to making amends however possible, beginning with full financial restitution. With deep remorse, Rebecca. It was the first sign that genuine change might be occurring. The Rebecca I had known would never have admitted fault so clearly or refrained from including justifications for her behavior. Still, I remained cautious. Words on paper were a start, but actions would tell the true story. 3 months and 2 weeks after the incident, I agreed to attend Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Rebecca would be there, and while the restraining order had been modified to allow family gatherings, I still approached the situation with significant apprehension. The drive to my childhood home felt longer than usual. I rehearsed what I might say, how I would respond to various scenarios. Would Rebecca be antagonistic? Overly apologetic? Would she act as if nothing had happened? I prepared myself for all possibilities. When I arrived, my mother greeted me with a tight hug, whispering, "Thank you for coming," in my ear. My father shook my hand with both of his, a gesture of warmth he rarely displayed. Rebecca was in the kitchen helping prepare the meal. When I entered, she looked up briefly, murmured a quiet, "Hello," and returned to chopping vegetables. The change in her was immediately apparent. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a plain sweater. Her previously highlighted hair was now its natural brown, pulled back in a simple ponytail. She had lost weight, and dark circles under her eyes suggested sleep did not come easily. Dinner was an exercise in careful conversation. We discussed safe topics: the unseasonably warm weather, a new restaurant in the neighborhood, my father's recent fishing trip. Rebecca spoke little, answering direct questions politely but otherwise remaining silent. She made no reference to our situation, respected my physical space, and avoided prolonged eye contact. After dessert, as I helped clear plates, Rebecca approached hesitantly. "Would it be all right if we talked? Maybe in the backyard?" "I understand if you would rather not." The request was made without demand or expectation, another departure from her previous behavior. I considered for a moment, then nodded. Okay. We stepped into the backyard where we had played countless games of tag and hide and seek as children. The old oak tree still stood in the corner, now supporting a bird feeder, rather than the rope swing of our youth. We sat on the wooden bench our father had built 20 years earlier. For several minutes, we sat in silence. Then Rebecca spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I do not even know where to begin," she said. "Sorry seems inadequate for what I did." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "The therapist says I should start by taking full responsibility without excuses," she went on. "So that is what I want to do. I was completely wrong to demand money from you. I was wrong to attack you with the coffee. I was wrong to destroy your car. I was wrong to lie about what happened. All of it was inexcusable. She paused, struggling visibly with emotion. Seeing those burns on your face and knowing I caused them, I will never forgive myself for that. You have always protected me, supported me, been there for me. And I repaid that with violence. Her hands twisted in her lap. The therapist is helping me understand why I did it. Apparently, I have serious issues with entitlement and impulse control. Growing up, I always got what I wanted eventually, if I pushed hard enough. That created patterns I carried into adulthood. This level of self-awareness was new for Rebecca. I found myself cautiously impressed, but not yet ready to fully trust this transformation. When you said no to the car, it triggered something primitive in me. Not getting what I wanted felt like a personal attack, rather than a reasonable boundary. The therapist calls it narcissistic injury. She continued explaining her therapy journey, how she was working through childhood patterns and learning healthier ways to manage disappointment and regulate her emotions. She shared that she had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and was committed to the treatment plan. I am working at Java Joy Cafe now, she said, naming a local coffee shop. It is minimum wage plus tips, nothing like my marketing salary. But it is honest work, and the schedule gives me time for therapy appointments. The irony of her working at a coffee shop after the coffee pot incident was not lost on me, but I refrained from commenting on it. I understand if you cannot forgive me, she said finally. What I did was unforgivable. But I wanted you to know that I am taking responsibility and trying to become someone who would never do such things again. I considered my response carefully. This conversation represented a crucial juncture in our relationship. Whatever I said would set the tone for any potential path forward. I hear your apology, I began slowly, and I acknowledge the work you are doing in therapy. That takes courage. She nodded, eyes downcast. But trust, once broken, is not easily rebuilt. I continued, especially after violence and deliberate harm. If, and that is a significant if, we are to have any relationship moving forward, there would need to be clear conditions. Anything, she said quickly. Whatever you need, continued therapy. For as long as your doctor recommends. Complete honesty. Always. A formal restitution plan that you stick to without complaint, even when it is difficult. And the understanding that forgiveness, if it comes, will be a process, not an event. Rebecca nodded solemnly. Those are more than fair terms. I expected nothing less. We sat in silence again, but it felt different somehow. Not comfortable, not yet. But perhaps less burdened. In that moment of quiet, a small robin landed on the bird feeder, going about its simple business of survival. We both watched it. This tiny reminder of life continuing despite human drama. Remember when you taught me to whistle to attract birds? Rebecca asked softly. You could never quite get the hang of it, I recalled, offering the first minimal smile of the evening. I practiced for weeks after you went to college, she admitted. Never did master it. It was a tiny moment. Insignificant in the grand scheme of our conflict, but it represented something important. A memory untainted by recent events, a reminder of the siblings we had once been. My parents watched anxiously from the kitchen window, their relief palpable when we eventually came back inside, without apparent new conflict. Though they did not ask, I told them we had taken a small step toward a new understanding. Not reconciliation, not yet, but an opening of a door that had seemed permanently closed. Driving home that night, I felt emotionally drained but also lighter somehow. The path ahead remained uncertain. But for the first time since that fateful Sunday, when Rebecca had first demanded money for the car, I could envision a possible future where our relationship existed in some form again. 6 months passed, then 9, then a full year. Time has a way of providing perspective that is impossible in the heated moments of conflict. Looking back now, I see how that painful chapter changed both of us, perhaps permanently but not entirely for the worse. The physical scars from the coffee attack faded more than the doctor initially predicted. A small patch on my left shoulder blade remained slightly discolored, but the facial burns healed completely, with careful treatment and time. The emotional scars took longer to address, but have similarly faded with intentional work. My relationship with material possessions shifted subtly after watching my car burn. The Toyota had represented security and independence to me. Values I still hold dear, but the attachment to the specific vehicle itself, that diminished considerably. I replaced it with another practical model, but I hold it more lightly now, understanding viscerally that objects can disappear in moments. Rebecca adhered to her restitution plan with surprising consistency. Each month, without fail, she transferred what she could afford from her coffee shop wages to my account. The amounts were small, sometimes painfully so, but the commitment behind them spoke volumes. When winter weather affected her tips, she took on additional cleaning jobs to maintain her payments. Her therapy continued beyond the court-mandated period. In our gradually increasing interactions, I noticed sustainable changes in her behavior and thought patterns. The entitlement that had characterized her attitude for so long gave way to a more grounded approach to life. She learned to accept disappointment without catastrophizing, to express needs without demands, to sit with uncomfortable emotions rather than acting on them impulsively. Our parents, too, evolved through this experience. The blind spot they had always had for Rebecca's problematic behavior disappeared once they could no longer deny the evidence of their eyes. They established clearer boundaries, refusing to rescue her from the natural consequences of her choices, while still offering appropriate emotional support. Our father, in particular, developed a new respect for my long-standing attempts to encourage Rebecca's independence, rather than enabling her dependence. Family gatherings slowly became less strained, then cautiously enjoyable, and eventually nearly normal. We established new patterns of interaction based on honest communication, rather than the dysfunctional dynamics that had characterized our relationships for so long. 1 year and 3 months after the incident, Rebecca completed her court-mandated community service hours and received formal notification that she had satisfied the requirements of her deferred prosecution agreement. No permanent criminal record would follow her, though the civil consequences through insurance and employment references remained. Around the same time, she was accepted into a community college program for healthcare administration, a practical field with stable job prospects. When she showed me the acceptance letter, tentatively proud but careful not to expect particular enthusiasm from me, I made a decision that surprised us both. "I want to help with your tuition," I told her. Her eyes widened. "Francisco, no. After everything that happened, I could never accept that." "This is different," I explained. "This is not enabling impulsive spending or status seeking. This is investing in your stable future." But there would be conditions. The conditions were straightforward. Maintain therapy, keep grades at B, average or above, continue restitution payments even if reduced, and work part-time to cover her own living expenses. She accepted with tearful gratitude, understanding the significant difference between this offer and the luxury car demand that had started our conflict. The wisdom I gained through this experience has applied to other relationships in my life as well. I learned that true love, whether for family, friends, or eventually romantic partners, means wanting growth for them more than comfort. It means allowing natural consequences rather than shielding people from the results of their choices. It means setting boundaries that protect your own well-being while leaving space for others to make better decisions. Perhaps most importantly, I learned that forgiveness is not a single moment of dramatic reconciliation, but a process that unfolds gradually through consistent actions and rebuilt trust. Rebecca and I will never have the same relationship we had in childhood. That innocence is gone. But the relationship we are carefully constructing now is, in many ways, healthier than what came before. Last weekend, Rebecca helped me assemble furniture for my new apartment, a task that would have been unimaginable 2 years ago. As we worked together, following instructions and passing tools back and forth, I realized we had created something more meaningful than physical furniture. We had built a framework for moving forward, piece by piece, instruction by instruction, with patience and care. The scars remain, both literal and figurative, but they have become part of our story, rather than defining it completely. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, that even the most painful chapters do not have to be the end of the book. What about you? Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with family members? Did it lead to positive change or continued conflict? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that setting boundaries, even when painful, can ultimately lead to healing. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most necessary growth.